All right, so we're going to do chapter 5, auto shop safety. Um, the objectives of this chapter, after studying this chapter, you'll be able to describe the typical layout, sections of an automotive shop, list the types of accidents that can occur in an automotive shop, explain how to prevent auto shop accidents, describe general safety rules for the auto shop. All right, so the auto shop layout has three different areas. You have a repair area, tool room, and here at school we have a classroom. Not all auto shops in the real world actually will have a classroom, um, but yeah. So here we have a classroom. It's not attached to the shop, but it has to be a separate layout for us to be accredited with what we're being accredited with. So in the repair area is any location in a shop where repairs are performed, such as shop stalls, which is small, sometimes marked off or numbered. Usually you'll have yellow lines kind of showing you where a shop stall is going to be. Usually that's where your lift is at and your toolbox will be at. Um, Outside workout areas, this will be adjacent to the shop. Um, uh, Adjacent to the shop and the overhead doors and everything. Sometimes shops have outside lifts and things like that. So sometimes you're working outside. The last shop I worked at, we had, I think, 4 lifts. They were outside underneath a metal shelter. Uh, and so that's not unusual to see, especially with how busy shops can get. They try to have as many lifts as possible and try to make things as affordable as possible for them. All right, a lift is a device that raises the vehicle into the air. So when you see it in the shop, usually you'll have 2 poles on it, 4 poles, something like that. But that's what's actually going to lift the vehicle up in the air, so you can work on everything. All right. Another thing is the alignment rack. Alignment rack is what is used for working on steering and suspension components. When you do steering and suspensions, you have to adjust them a little bit so that the wheels are actually pointed straight ahead. That way you don't have one kind of pointed the other way while the other is pointed straight ahead and you're dragging the tire. That way it makes the tires last long. Those devices, they're called alignment racks. It's a lift and a machine that has a computer attached to it to help align those wheels the way it has to be aligned for. All right. All right, so lift safety. Right here is a good picture of a lift. You can see a gentleman working on the rear on the suspension or something like that down below. This is a 2-post lift. So anytime we use a lift, you're going to want to ask your instructor for a demonstration. That's me. Get permission to use it. Position the vehicle center of gravity where the center of the lift is. So here on this 2-post lift, you'll want the center of gravity right next to where the posts are. Right here, you can see the post and center of gravity. It doesn't have to be completely exactly perfect, but the more you get used to it, the more you kind of figure out about where the center of the vehicle is. You want it balanced very well. If it's too far back, you run the risk of the vehicle flipping off backwards. If it's too far forward, it could flip off forward. So the center of gravity is obviously the point of perfect balance. Sometimes you can follow the service manual. It will have where that might be and everything. You can look on the side of the lift here. These are the controls you're going to use. These are the lift arms, excuse me, and the lift pads are what's going to actually contact the frame and lift the vehicle up. So lift safety, you want to raise the vehicle slowly. Keep your fingers clear of moving parts. Double check your lift points and make sure the vehicle is level. You always want to keep your hands clear. When you're raising it up, it's just a button you're going to push. That's the only hand that should be up there is pushing that one button. You don't want your fingers anywhere near any of the moving parts. It uses incredible amount of hydraulic force and pressure, and that hydraulic power doesn't care about your fingers. So you want to keep them away from that stuff. You want to double check your lift points. So when the vehicle starts to lift up off the air, you can actually see the the vehicle kind of change and start lifting up, you want to stop and you want to go through and make sure those pads are actually on the frame and on the frame very well, not on the edge or anything, on the center where it needs to be at, and that they're on a flat surface. You also want to make sure the vehicle is level. You don't want it tilted too far forward or too far back. Sometimes it might have a little bit of an angle to it. If it's just slight, that's okay, but you want it as level as possible. You want to verify that the lift safety catches are engaged. You don't want to walk under a lift if the catches are not fully in locked positions. So it works off of hydraulics lifting the vehicle, but it has a mechanical safety that's going to lock the vehicle, keep it from falling down if the hydraulics fail. When you lift the vehicle up, which I will show in the shop, once we lift it up and get to position we need to get to, we're going to lower it down onto those safety catches so they're resting on those mechanical safety locks. You don't want to leave it resting on the hydraulic system. Hydraulic systems are the weakest point in that. The mechanical locks are a little bit stronger and a little bit safer. Well, that's also true with floor jacks. When you lift the vehicle up with floor jacks, you want to lower it onto a jack stand and not leave it on the floor jack, not resting on that hydraulics. All right, here's some examples of lifting points. The red is the frame contact for floor jacks. So typically on a full frame vehicle, these red points are where you want to jack it up with the floor jack. The blue components here are what you're going to use for a twin post lift, so a 2-post lift. When you're lifting up, that's where the pads are going to go. And the green is where you're going to use your scissor jack. This is for emergencies when you're changing your spare tire. That's your jack that you're going to use for that comes with the vehicle for changing spares and everything. Excuse me, just a second. All right, so a tool room is a shop storage area for large pieces of repair equipment, shop tools, small equipment, supplies, things like that. So a tool room is kind of like just a storage room. In our shop here, we have it in the back corner, has a lot of our big heavy duty equipment that we'll use for suspension, diagnostics, and other things, stuff besides our hands tools. All tools must be accounted for at the end of each class period as well as you want to listen to me follow my policies and procedures. Mainly, put everything away where it goes, make sure it's wiped down and clean, and make sure it's organized. The biggest thing is organization. I'm very picky about that. Let's make sure things get put away where it should be. We have multiple 10mm sockets, multiple 10mm wrenches. They should all be placed back in the toolbox where they go. They don't actually run off like the memes say and stuff like that. Usually it's because they don't get put back where it needs to be. So I want to make sure we get our tools put back where they belong. That way we're not searching for tools when we're working on things. We optimize our time. We're physically working on things. We're not having to look for tools because we know where they're at. Right? Everybody knows what a classroom is. Classroom office-like area in the school or a large repair facility. It's a place where you're going to increase your knowledge of service and repairs, used for seminar, demonstrations, and training activities as well. Shop safety. Every year, thousands of auto technicians are injured or killed because they break safety rules. Shop safety, shops can be very dangerous. Don't want that to scare you or anything, but it is. But we have a lot of safety measures that help to mitigate a lot of those risks. I've, in my 15 years, never seen very many accidents. I have seen 1 or 2. I've had a couple happen to me myself, but following safety rules, you can minimize that as much as possible. You constantly want to think of safety. It's everybody's responsibility for safety. You are responsible for those around you as well as yourself when it comes to safety. Make sure you know your emergency exits, which are your designated escape routes. So on the back of the doors in the classroom and the shop have our emergency exits for tornadoes, fire drill, things like that, as well as we will practice those throughout the school year. All right, these are different types of dangers the shops can present. You have backfires through the intake. Those can be old fireballs coming out that can burn you, along with hot engine coolant can burn you as well. You have spinning fan blades that you can catch your fingers in. High voltage. High voltage is always recognized by very bright orange, high visible cables. They will always have a very bright neon orange cables and connectors. That is high voltage for hybrid vehicles and electric vehicles, as well as spinning tires and axles. And the exhaust isn't good to be breathing. It's very toxic as well. So you have a few different types of accidents. You have fires, explosions, asphyxiation, which is airborne poisons, chemical burns, electrical shock, and physical injuries. Right. So fires, we want to make sure we store gasoline or flammables in approved containers. Never use gasoline as a cleaning solvent. When you're cleaning with it, gasoline has a lot of vapors. Those vapors are very flammable. We don't want to clean with solvent, use as a cleaning solvent because those vapors can be flammable and can cause a fire. We have specialized cleaning solvents and stuff like that to minimize the risk of fires that way. When disconnecting fuel lines, you want to cover it with a rag so it doesn't squirt or leak out. So you'll wrap the rag around the connection, and when you undo the connection, that way the fuel that's in there will be absorbed or deflected with the rag and everything. You'll want to wipe up gasoline spills immediately. You want to not use oil absorbent or oil dry. The oil dry will just absorb it, and then the oil dry itself will be flammable. So it hasn't really done anything. You want to clean it up, get something that will clean it up, and then we can dispose of it properly. You want to keep heat sources away from exposed fuel system parts. That way it doesn't cause fires. Disconnect batteries before working on fuel system parts. Keep batteries disconnected during repairs as well. Batteries, you can accidentally cause a spark if you cause a short circuit. That spark can cause fires if there's anything flammable around that spark. So, you want to properly store oily rags. There are special containers for it. A rag container is metal and it has a lid that will self-close on itself. That way, if there is a fire within inside the container, it is contained and won't spread outside of the container, hopefully. You want to store combustibles into a fire cabinet. Those are usually marked. They have a big label on it that says flammable. It's a cabinet with metal doors. The cabinet itself is metal. That way, if there's a fire inside, it does not spread outside of it. And if there's a fire outside, it doesn't spread into that as well. Fire extinguishers, you always want to know the locations of it, how to properly use it, and the correct type. I give lessons on this so we know everything there is about fire extinguishers, how to use them, fire safety and stuff as well in another lecture. But always know the locations and how to use them and the correct type of fire extinguisher. Those are three major things to really know about fire extinguishers. Your fire classifications, you have a few different types. You have Class A fires, Type A. That's wood, paper, plastic, cloth. I call these trash can fires. That's usually things you'll see in a trash can. It's just simple combustibles. Type B fires is burning liquids, such as gasoline, oil, other types of flammable fluids as well. Type C is dealing with electrical equipment. So if it has any electricity running through it, is a type C fire. You want to make sure that you know that has electricity. That's a type C fire. We need to fight it a certain way. And type D is burning metals. There are certain metals that are combustible and will burn as well, such as magnesium. And they are very hard to extinguish once they start burning. They burn at very high temperatures. So different types of fire extinguishers. You have a soda acid fire extinguisher. This is for type A fires only. You also have pressurized water, which is a type A, uh, for type A fires only, and carbon dioxide for type B or C fires. You don't want to put water on a liquid fire or electrical fire. If it's, say, we have gasoline burning, if you put water on it, the gasoline floats on top of the water. And so that burning gasoline will just sit on top of the water instead of being extinguished. And it can spread out and be cover a much larger area. Um, as well as we don't want to deal with electricity. We don't want to throw water on electricity because that can cause electrical shock. So we want to be sure of that. Carbon dioxide fights a fire by removing the oxygen. So that's a very good fire extinguisher for liquids or electrical. You have a foam fire extinguishers. These are good for A and B fires. This is a liquid, but because it's a foam, if it's gasoline or oil, it will sit on top of it and smother the fire out. It will remove that oxygen from it. You have dry chemicals. You have a multi-purpose dry chemical, which is good for A, B, and C. And you have an ordinary BC type dry chemical, which is obviously only good for B and C. Dry chemical granular type materials are for type D fires only. This is kind of like a metal that suffocates that fire and puts it out. Right. Explosions are rapid, almost instant combustion of materials that cause powerful shock waves. Sources can be hydrogen gas around car batteries, fuel tanks, special sodium-filled engine valves, welding tanks, and propane-filled bottles. All of those can cause explosions. One you probably don't know about is car batteries. When car batteries are being charged, they produce hydrogen gas. Hydrogen gas is very flammable, so we want to keep sparks away from car batteries and stuff, especially when they've been charged. We don't want that hydrogen gas to explode, causing that battery to explode and send sulfuric acid everywhere. So you always want to wear proper eye and face protection when working around batteries for that purpose. This prevents blindness, facial cuts, acid burns, and scars. Asphyxiation is caused by breathing in toxic or poisonous substances. Symptoms can be dizziness, headaches, vomiting, and the very end of it can be death. Exhaust gases are poisonous, so we do want proper ventilation. You want to make sure the shop doors are open when you have engines running inside the shop. You also want, if a shop doesn't have very big shop doors, or you want to keep the doors closed, there is a special ventilation system that will hook to the tailpipe and pull the exhaust out of the building and keep the exhaust out of the building to prevent that. If you experience any of these symptoms, dizziness, headaches, or vomiting while we're in the shop working and the cars, we have vehicles running and stuff like that, let me or someone know, and we'll need to move you to fresh air, and we'll make sure to remove everybody else just in case someone else is having issues as well. We'll figure out what's going on to cause that. Make sure you get everybody to fresh air. Um, Other harmful substances, if inhaled, can be asbestos, part cleaner, paint sprays. Working around airborne impurities, you want to wear proper respirators. That way, you're not inhaling these things. Uh, and protecting yourself and your lungs. These things, asbestos, parts cleaner, and paint spray, can be very harmful and cause cancer. So you don't want to breathe that in and cause health issues later on. All right, chemical burns are just like being burnt by fire. Chemicals can burn your skin. Solvents, battery acid, corrosive substances can cause those types of things. Decarbonizing draw body cleaners is a corrosive substance, for example, and can burn your skin through it being a chemical. You want to wear proper protective gears such as nitrile gloves or rubber gloves to prevent this from happening. Electrical shock. This results of electrical current passing through parts of your body. This may cause injury or death. Never use tools that does not have a functioning functioning ground prong. This is that round third prong on a plug as a ground prong. It is to, if there's an issue with the tool, if it shorts out or whatever, it will not shock you. It will go through that ground prong and protect you. Sometimes people will damage that or cut it off. Do not use a tool if that's happened. Get it fixed and repaired immediately. Never use an electrical tool on a wet shop floor. Just use a rubber. You have rubber soles that insulate you from the electrical shock from going to ground. If you're on a wet floor, it can go past that because it can go through the water instead of having to try to go through the rubber in your shoes. So the wet shop floor can cause you to be shocked. Or if the floor is wet, you're working on something that has a cord and there might be a cut on that cord. That cut can send an electrical shock through that water to you as well. Right, hybrid vehicles, they use very high voltage motor generators and batteries. They can operate from 300 to 600 volts. They're very high voltage. You'll always want to make sure to follow manufacturer's safety rules. Wear rubberized rubber electrical gloves. Use insulated tools. That way the metal tools aren't going to cause any type of short circuits. They're insulated to prevent that, as well as disconnect and disable batteries during service. Follow your manufacturer's service manual to guide you on how to do that. All right, physical injuries. This results from hundreds of different accidents, cuts, broken bones, strained back. Evaluate every repair technique. Take appropriate precautions and use a proper tool for the job. So you want to prevent yourself from being cut. Make sure you're paying attention to where sharp objects are and things like that. Broken bones, those are fall risk things. So make sure there's no tripping hazards anywhere around you that you can fall and break a bone. And strain back. Make sure you lift with your knees when you're lifting something heavy and not with your back. General safety rules, wear eye protection. Number one, always, 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 always wear eye protection when you're in the shop. You should always wear eye protection in the shop. Can't stress that enough. Use the eye wash station if debris or chemicals do get in your eyes. I will explain this once we get in the shop. It's very easy to use. It's a little eye wash station. It's yellow and green. It will always be yellow and green. It has nozzles that point upward and a big handle that you can hit with your that's very easy to find if you have to have your eyes closed. And when you do that, it will shoot some water upwards and you put your face into the water and rinse your eyes out. Avoid anyone who does not take safety seriously. Not only do that, but also report them. Let me know, let someone know. That way we can fix it. That way they're not injuring themselves or others. Keep the shop organized, always. Dress appropriately. So you want shoes, closed-toed shoes. You don't want to be wearing flip-flops or something like that. Take jewelry off, necklaces, things like that. You want to put them away and store them somewhere else. Never carry sharp tools in your pocket. Those can stab you. You can damage people's vehicles as well. If you have it in your back pocket, a screwdriver or something, sit down in someone's car, you can tear their upholstery. And wear full face protection when grinding or welding. So when you're grinding or welding, obviously you want to wear full face protection. Safety glasses aren't just enough. Welding is a very bright light. We need a special shaded lens to help protect your eyes from that. Work in a professional manner. Don't be horseplaying or anything like that. Use the right tool for the job. Keep guards or shields in place. On the bench grinders, there's guards there. You have to keep those in place. That way sparks aren't being thrown in your face or nothing gets thrown out to you, as well as any type of other grinders. Lift with your legs, not your back. Already talked about that a bit. And use adequate lighting. You want to be able to see what you're working on. That way you don't cut yourself or injure yourself. So make sure you have a good light. You want to ventilate your work area. Like I said, we keep the shop door open. Make sure there's no carbon monoxide from the exhaust of the vehicle building up in the shop. Never stir up asbestos dust. You don't want to breathe it in. There's special solvents that will soak it down, keep it wet so it doesn't get up in the air, and so you don't breathe it in. When jack up a vehicle slowly and safely, drive slowly into the shop area at a snail's pace. You don't want to drive in too quickly and cause an accident because the vehicle might not have brakes. The brakes might fail. Something might happen. So want to drive in slowly. As well as, like I said before, report any unsafe conditions to me. So that way we can fix it. Or just fix it yourself. If you see something on the floor, a spill or a mess, go ahead and clean it up yourself. Right. Stay away from engine fans. They're spinning at very high rate speed. They can cut you and hurt you, as well as if you have long hair or a necklace or a tie or something on your shirt, loose clothing, it can grab that and pull you into the spinning fan blades as well. You want to respect engines. Running engines are very powerful, and they don't have a brain. They're not smart. So if something happens, it's not going to stop and it's not going to care. So respect it. Be sure you're aware of where your hands and fingers are at. Do not smoke in or near a shop. This is school. You can't smoke in the school anyway or around the school. But that's actually a law here in North Carolina that if you're working at an automotive shop, you can't be smoking cigarettes in there. Obtain permission and instruction before using unfamiliar equipment. Always learn how to use stuff uh, before using it. You don't want to just guess. You can cause injuries and issues that way. We do have things in this country known as right to know laws. This gives essential information and guidelines for safely working on hazardous materials. It's technicians' responsibility to read all this printed material concerning handling of hazardous materials. One of those things is known as the safety data sheet. MSDS or SDS is the acronyms that are used. Make sure these are read. Every shop has to have this by law. If it has a chemical in the shop, there has to be a data sheet on that chemical. It says very detailed information available from product manufacturers. You can actually find it on Google. This is an example of one you can see here. It gives you information of certain cautions, such as eye irritation, if you swallow, what to do, things like that. Over here, it gives you all your hazard ratings. So if it's fire or if it reacts with anything. And over here, it gives you stuff, giving you information if you do swallow it, if you do get it in your eyes or whatever, it gives you that safety information and first aid information. All right, OSHA. This is Occupational Safety and Health Administration. This provides a guideline for safe operations of work sites. This establishes safe and work regulations for all industries, not automotive, not just any trade, but even just an office. If you're sitting at a desk typing on a computer all day, OSHA has regulations for you. They want to make sure that employees are safe and employers are not putting people in harm's way for no reason at all when there's safety that can be involved to keep people safe. So they can be very helpful. I always know their number and stuff because if your employer is causing issues and putting you in unnecessary risk, you can call them and they will make sure to have that fixed. Right? And lastly, EPA. This is the Environmental Protection Agency. This regulates harmful materials. They require proper labeling, storage, transportation, and disposal. So in the automotive industry, we have a lot of chemicals, a lot of fluids in a vehicle. The EPA is very hard and on top of how we dispose those, how we handle them, how we store those liquids and fluids and things like that, as well as the vehicle has emission components and stuff like that. They regulate all of that as well. We can't mess with things involving emission components on the vehicle, altering them or disabling them. They will come into your shop, they will give you fines, and they can arrest you as well. They're a very strict organization. and they are actually a law enforcement organization. So that concludes uh, that chapter and everything. If you have any questions, make sure to let me know. I'll be glad to help you. That's why I'm here. I'm here to teach you. So if you have any questions, let me know. Shoot me an email, whatever. Stop me in class. Just let me know.